After a business trip, my husband not only lost his memory but also had another wife. George Miller and Martha Miller doted on the other woman, indulging her as she wore my pajamas, slept in my bed, and even threw a pregnancy test in my face. Sorry, Sarah, I'm pregnant. Seeing you makes me sick, so I'm afraid you'll have to leave the mansion. When I finally saw my husband, he threw a divorce agreement at me. The one who isn't loved is the real third party. I've supported you for so many years, I've been more than generous. If you have any decency, sign it. Let's be clear, marriage isn't a transaction, nobody should take advantage of anyone. I gleefully scribbled my name onto the paper. He had lost his memory, so he'd forgotten that he was the one living off me. It wasn't until I landed that I learned my husband had an accident while hiking. He'd not only fractured a leg but also hit his head. Although he had been discharged from the hospital, the doctor said he might have lost his memory. Hurrying home in a panic, I immediately sensed something was wrong. The minimalist design in the mansion, specifically crafted by a designer, had been drastically altered. There was a gaudy gold sofa set and tacky crystal ornaments. Most importantly, my pet dog, Snowy, didn't run out to greet me right away. Just as I was about to call my husband, I heard movement from the bedroom. Holding my breath, I crept closer to the bedroom and finally heard Snowy whimpering. The next moment, the sounds of moaning from inside made my blood run cold. I didn't know the woman, but the man was all too familiar. It was Robert, my husband of several years. Honey, you're amazing even with one leg. Isn't my baby naughty? Wearing the frumpy wife's pajamas, facing the frumpy wife's wedding photo, and with that stupid dog beside us, it's incredibly stimulating. You're so good, baby. Soon I'll kill that dog and make soup for you. Ugh. Hearing the dog bark makes me feel like that Fr. Umpy wife is right here. The bedroom door wasn't closed. Lying on the bed, with one leg propped up in enjoyment, who else could it be but Robert? Hearing them talk about killing Snowy to eat, I couldn't take it anymore. I kicked the bedroom door wide open. The two inside flinched, especially Robert. His face stiffened when he saw me, then he frowned in displeasure. What the hell are you doing? Can't you see I'm busy? How dare you come in here and bother me? Get out! Hearing Robert's curses, my face completely darkened. From the moment I met him until now, Robert had always been gentle and considerate towards me. Forget yelling, he usually just acted cute and clingy around me, competing with Snowy for my attention. Could amnesia really turn someone into a completely different person? Before I could speak, the woman on the bed started moving on Robert again. She even turned back to look at me provocatively. Honey, is it because you haven't touched Sarah in so long that she has such a fetish? I don't like her watching. Saying she didn't like being watched, yet moving more enthusiastically than anyone. I was certain that before this accident, Robert was stuck to me like glue, whether at home or at the company. Although I didn't know where this woman came from the moment Robert became dirty, he was no longer someone I wanted. A man's integrity is his best asset. I have no use for a dirty man. Robert, we're getting a divorce. The words had barely left my mouth when someone from behind brutally yanked my hair. Before I could even see who it was, a hard slap landed on my face. You little slut! Living off my son, eating well, wearing well, where do you get the nerve to bring up divorce? If anyone's getting divorced, it's him. Taking 2 hits before I could react, I couldn't help but gasp. Snowy was tied up by the neck to the side. Seeing me being bullied, he started struggling violently, growling incessantly at the person behind me. Woof! Woof woof woof! Woof! Good! Like owner, like dog! You damn little beast, I'll teach you a lesson. An old man rushed out and started furiously kicking Snowy. Snowy is a small white Shih Tzu. He's been with me for many years and is already old. How could he withstand such kicking? He quickly curled up on the ground, only able to let out small whimpers. It was then that I saw clearly. This old man was Robert's father, George Miller. George Miller, what are you doing? Stop it! I wanted to rush over, but Martha Miller held my arms in a vice-like grip from behind, making me unable to move. Hearing me say that, George Miller became even more agitated, his eyes red as he looked at Snowy. Damn it! Robert told us you spend tens of thousands a month on this beast. You're so good to this animal, but where's that filial piety for your in-laws? Damn it, raising it is just a waste of money. Might as well kill it and eat it. I want to see what a dog worth hundreds of thousands tastes like. That's right. Beat this little beast to death. It's all my son's money being spent. Martha Miller used all her strength, her fingers digging into my skin. But I couldn't care about the pain anymore. Snowy was in very bad shape, already foaming at the mouth. He needed to see a vet immediately. I spent my money, not your son's. Let go of me now. I wasn't lying. Between Robert and me, he was the one I supported. The mansion was mine, and the company was mine. When I first got together with Robert, it was because he was handsome, knew his place, and knew how to cater to people. My family wasn't short on money, and I was set to inherit the company, so having a kept man wasn't a big deal. Of course, Robert was a man, he had his pride. So when he told George Miller and Martha Miller that he was the general manager of the company, I didn't contradict him. He didn't want others to see him doing housework or cooking, so usually, there was no one else in the mansion. But at that moment, I regretted it. If I had had a housekeeper, bodyguards, or staff, I wouldn't have been in such a helpless situation. I was clearly telling the truth, but the 4 people present just laughed. Your money? What money do you have? My son is the general manager of Sterling Corporation. You're living off him. How dare you lie? I'll beat your mouth senseless. If you ask me, we should just strip her naked and throw her out. That'll show her who gave her the good life. After everyone's seen her, let's see if she still dares to yell at me. George Miller and Martha Miller spoke one after the other, while Robert slowly got out of bed, not saying a word in my defense. Even though he had amnesia, the wedding photo was hanging by the bed. He knew I was his wife, yet he allowed me to be so humiliated. It was clear from George Miller and Martha Miller's attitude how Robert usually treated me in front of them. Robert, what exactly do you want? Slap, a white strip with an unpleasant smell was thrown hard at my face. It landed on the ground with 2 bright lines on it. Sorry, Sarah, I'm pregnant. Seeing you makes me sick, so I'm afraid you'll have to leave the mansion. A pregnancy test? A hint of confusion arose in my heart. The woman's belly was still flat, even if she was pregnant, it wouldn't be more than 3 months. But for the past 3 months, the company had a big project, and I was almost working around the clock. Robert had also been following me, running between 2 points for several months. Everyone said he was a perfectly devoted husband. Where would Robert have had the time to cheat and get someone pregnant? Either the pregnancy test was fake, or the woman wasn't pregnant at all. The more I looked, the more it seemed like Robert had been cuckolded, but I didn't want to tell him, nor did I want to waste time. I just wanted to rush Snowy to the vet and deal with these lowlifes later. As you can see, Jessica is pregnant with my child. I have money and power, I can't let my child be nameless and without status. Really, after all these years of marriage, it's your fault for not giving me children. Robert said, picking up a divorce agreement from the bedside table and throwing it in front of me. The one who isn't loved is the real third party. I've supported you for so many years, I've been more than generous. If you have any decency, sign it. Let's be clear, marriage isn't a transaction, nobody should take advantage of anyone. The sudden turn of events left me speechless. When we got married, Robert and I signed a prenuptial agreement. He couldn't take my mansion or my shares. Because he was handsome and obedient and knew how to please me, I added a clause that if we divorced, I would give him $20 million in compensation. But now, Robert had drafted his own divorce agreement, giving up that $20 million. I lowered my eyes, hiding the mockery within them. It seemed heaven wasn't on the side of villains after all. I quickly signed my name. Jessica eagerly snatched one copy, looking happier and happier as she read it. She kissed Robert hard on the cheek. Wonderful, honey. Now we can be together openly. And my baby won't be called illegitimate. A smile also appeared on Robert's face. He stroked her belly dotingly. You're pregnant and still playing around? What if something happens? You're about to be a mother. Don't be so naughty. Jessica pulled his hand and gently shook it, her strap slipping from her shoulder. The doctor said it's fine. If the baby can't handle a little roughhousing, how will they inherit your business? Inherit what business? The business he's about to be kicked out of and left begging on the street? I didn't say anything else. Snowy was already starting to spit blood from his mouth. The blood stained my clothes, and I was frantic, wanting only to get Snowy and leave immediately. But Jessica's eyes darted, and she deliberately tried to stop me. She stepped forward and grabbed my hand, preventing me from leaving. Honey, it's a weekday today. Why don't you go get divorced now? Today's a good day, perfect for us to get married too. No, not today. I didn't care if Jessica wanted to quickly seal the deal while Robert had amnesia and fully cuckolded him. I only cared about Snowy. Let me take Snowy to the vet first. I can go to City Hall with you tomorrow. Robert shook his head and had George Miller and Martha Miller grab me. Sarah, don't waste your time. I know you're trying to delay the divorce. You can spend your time on this animal, but my time is valuable. We're going today. Snowy's body started to tremble slightly. His eyelids drooped, but he still tried hard to lift his head and lick my hand. All right. I'll go with you to sign. Right now. George Miller and Martha Miller couldn't drive, and Robert had a broken leg, so I was the only one who could drive. With the steering wheel in my hands, my first priority was to drive to the emergency animal hospital. But as soon as we got in the car, Robert snatched Snowy from me and slammed my hand onto the steering wheel. Drive to City Hall. After you sign, I'll give this little beast back to you. Are you trying to kill Snowy? I clenched my back teeth, glaring fiercely at Robert. His face showed no change, but now it only made me feel sick. Robert put his hand on Snowy's neck, his tone cold. Don't waste my time. This was all my fault. I was a poor judge of character. If anything happened to Snowy, I would definitely kill them. Staying within the legal speed limit, I floored the accelerator. At the same time, I woke up my phone and called my assistant, Chris, telling him to wait for me at the entrance of City Hall immediately. Still think you're some pampered madam? You only got that job and an assistant because of my husband. Once you're divorced, you'll be the assistant. Jessica said sourly, but thinking that she was about to snag a rich man, she didn't want to make too much trouble and just continued to make snide remarks. I looked at her calmly in the rearview mirror. Today, I had truly rediscovered who Robert was: cruel, ruthless, capable of anything. When Robert regained his memory, what would this legally married couple do then? As soon as I got out of the car, Chris was already waiting. He immediately came over to take Snowy. He knew the vet hospital Snowy always went to and how to handle things. I felt relieved leaving Snowy with him. Starting tomorrow, report to Human Resources. Ignoring your own boss. Do you have any sense? Jessica, clinging to Robert bonelessly, pouted and batted her eyes. Honey, I want to go to the company too. Robert was also unhappy that Chris had ignored him, but Jessica's reaction pleased him greatly. Any lingering feeling of unease he had disappeared without a trace. I immediately stepped in front of Chris, not wanting to argue with this troublesome family anymore. Aren't we going to get divorced? If we delay any longer, they'll close. Or do you not want the divorce anymore? Robert looked at me with disgust and patted Jessica, signaling her to push him inside. The documents and agreement were all there, and the process wasn't complicated. The divorce certificate for me and Robert was still warm when we got it. Jessica excitedly pulled Robert towards the marriage registration window. Having received Chris's report, I was no longer in a hurry. I watched the two of them with interest. The small marriage certificate was in Jessica's hands. Only then did my heart settle. Everyone gets what they deserve, don't they? Robert, are you sure that's your child? I suggest you check carefully, so you don't end up raising someone else's kid while you're like this. I didn't play favorites and looked at Jessica. And as for you, I suggest you ask your dear husband just how many assets he actually has. One with ulterior motives, one incredibly foolish. A perfect match. AF. After saying that, I turned and drove towards the mansion. Now that the divorce was finalized, it was time to get rid of the trash. Yes, that's right, send me 10 cleaning staff. I'm also selling this mansion. You can come view it right away. Anything not needed can be thrown out immediately. Just thinking about Robert and Jessica doing whatever they were doing on the bed I bought made me sick. Remembering the decor in the living room, I decided to sell the mansion directly. The neighborhood grounds were some distance from City Hall. By the time the 4 of them arrived by taxi, I had already had people move all their belongings out of the mansion. What are you doing? What are you doing? This is my son's house. Who told you to move things? God damn it. I'm calling the police. Put it all down. Put it all down. Martha Miller was so angry she was hopping up and down. Her eyes immediately locked onto me. You trash. This is my son's mansion. The divorce agreement clearly stated you're not allowed near my son's things. I knew you couldn't bear to let go of the wealth and status my son earned. Do you want to go to jail? George Miller was even more over the top. He already had a bad temper. He raised his fist and charged, punching and kicking one of the staff members. You're all the slut's lovers, aren't you? I'll beat you to death. The staff member took several hits before he reacted. But he didn't fight back. Instead, his colleagues stepped forward and restrained George Miller. They knew the mansion was mine and that I had placed the order, so they all looked at me. Ms. Sterling, about this matter. This company was very professional. Their work was fully recorded by cameras, serving as both a guarantee to the employer and protection for themselves. They weren't surprised by this kind of incident. There were 2 ways to handle it. The first was for the client to settle financially, paying for the injured staff member's medical expenses and emotional distress. The second was if the people involved had no relation to the client, then their company's legal team would protect their rights. I naturally chose the latter. I'm sorry, these people have nothing to do with me. You can handle this according to your standard procedures. Of course, since you're working for me, I'll provide you with additional compensation and a bonus. The staff members' eyes lit up. They immediately understood the implications and put on a look of righteous impartiality, preparing to call the police. No police. Son, tell them not to call the police. I don't want to go to jail. Still hitting me, still hitting staff. George Miller always acted like he feared nothing. Now that he'd hit a wall, hearing about calling the police made his legs weak with fear, but he still puffed out his chest. Son, it's a good thing you divorced this woman. She doesn't know how to be filial to her elders at all, always siding against us. Marrying a woman like this would only bring trouble to the family. Robert showed no sign of panic. After losing his memory, Jessica had been by his side. From her, he learned he was the general manager of Sterling Corporation and owned a luxurious mansion. He also looked at his chat history with his parents, which confirmed this. In Robert's eyes, having money, power, and influence could solve 99% of the world's problems, just like now. Hitting someone? What was that? Give them some money, and they should be grateful, right? How much money will you accept for a private settlement? The staff members wouldn't just name a price off the cuff. They immediately contacted their company's legal team to communicate with Robert. The final price was set at $50,000. After settling that, Robert finally looked at me again. Sarah, I thought you were a woman who knew her place and was sensible. I didn't expect you to cause such a scene. I made it very clear, I don't love you anymore. Why are you making trouble at my mansion? I burst out laughing on the spot, pulling out my phone and showing him the proof. What? Your mansion? This is my mansion. Upon seeing the content on the phone, the 4 people's faces were a sight to behold, especially Jessica's, whose eyes were filled with suspicion and unease. She and Robert met by accident. Robert was the most successful man she could possibly access. So even knowing Robert had a wife, she still decided to strike up a conversation and get his contact information. Jessica could feel that Robert was very satisfied with her body and looks during their chats, but for some reason, things always stayed in the ambiguous phase, never meeting in person. But Jessica didn't get discouraged. She kept up the warm greetings and contact with Robert until just 2 days ago, when Robert suddenly asked her to go hiking and specifically told her his wife was away on a business trip. The meaning was clear to any adult. What made her ecstatic was that Robert had slipped and hit his head, which resulted in amnesia, giving her an opportunity. A man so young, capable, and considerate towards his wife, Jessica was naturally moved. She immediately decided to tell Robert she was his mistress and was already pregnant. In just 2 days, she also managed to win over George Miller and Martha Miller. No! She could never afford the value of this mansion by herself in her lifetime. Sarah must have gotten it from a man too. Thinking this, Jessica was consumed by jealousy and wanted nothing more than to snatch this mansion and put it in her name. Sarah, this mansion must be a gift from my husband, right? You both agreed nobody should take advantage of anyone. How can you hide this mansion just because my husband lost his memory? Robert quickly accepted this explanation and looked at me as if I were a worm. Sarah, I can forgive your deception. I can even forgive you bringing these people into my house. But you have to give me back this mansion. Money doesn't grow on trees. It seemed he hadn't woken up from his pipe dream yet. He was right about one thing: time is precious and shouldn't be wasted on garbage. I immediately pulled out my phone and contacted the neighborhood security to directly escort the four of them out. No matter how they yelled, cried, or made a scene, the security guards remained unmoved. Of course, the cleaning staff also followed them out. If they said they'd pay, they had to get the money. After dealing with the mansion, I rushed to the animal hospital with Snowy's comfort toy/favorite blanket. Snowy was a very fragile dog. With such severe injuries, he definitely couldn't be without his comfort toy/favorite blanket. The vet said Snowy's organs were somewhat damaged, but fortunately, he was brought in time and wasn't in critical condition. However, he still needed to stay for observation. My heart ached. I reached out and stroked Snowy's little head, placing his comfort toy/favorite blanket beside him. A trace of hatred flashed in my heart. I would never let those two old monsters get away with this. If it weren't for them, Snowy wouldn't have suffered. After being kicked out of the mansion, Robert realized something very serious. He had been so foolish as to give Sarah a mansion, and now he couldn't get in. What was worse was that he had found this mansion by looking at the shipping address on his phone. Besides this mansion, he had no idea what other properties he owned. Jessica felt no sadness about being kicked out. In her eyes, Sarah's actions were pushing a man away. Even if Robert regained his memory someday, he wouldn't like this woman who had embarrassed him. Men still needed gentle, considerate women, like herself. It's okay, honey. We'll stay at a hotel. Since Mom and Dad are here, they can enjoy the presidential suite too. Jessica's words had just resolved the family's awkwardness when the cleaning company staff caught up with them. Awkwardly, Robert didn't have 50,000 in his WeChat or Alipay either. He could only take out his black card. However, the cleaning company staff didn't have a POS machine. Jessica, once again, gently and considerately paid the 50,000 herself, resolving the immediate problem. 50,000 in a black card, she knew which was more important. This beautiful fantasy was finally shattered when they checked into the hotel. Why won't it go through? This is a black card. Is there something wrong with your machine? Try again. George Miller and Martha Miller demanded the only 2 presidential suites available and made numerous requests, treating the hotel staff like servants from ancient times. Seeing these well-dressed young people bowing and scraping before them, George Miller and Martha Miller couldn't help but feel proud. But after choosing the rooms and making their demands, the card wouldn't work. Robert was sweating profusely. A bad feeling clouded his mind. Earlier, Sarah had said all the money she spent was hers, and that the mansion was hers too. He hadn't taken it seriously, but now the card wouldn't work. Could it be that everything he had relied on Sarah? Robert asked himself, if all of this belonged to Sarah, would he have been subservient to her? The answer was yes. Understanding his own answer, he became even more terrified. He had just divorced Sarah. No! Impossible! Absolutely impossible. The hotel front desk staff maintained a smile on their faces, but in their hearts, they had cursed the 4 people in front of them hundreds of times. They were just doing their jobs, but these people were treating them like slaves. If they were truly big clients, it would be one thing. But their machine was definitely not faulty, and the man in front of them looked undeniably guilty. The front desk staff immediately dropped their smile, a hint of mockery in their tone. "Sir, would you still like to check into these 2 presidential suites?" Seeing his son ing mocked like this, George Miller couldn't stand it. He immediately started cursing loudly. The commotion instantly drew the attention of everyone entering and leaving the hotel. Robert's face turned red from head to toe, like a boiled shrimp. He truly felt how embarrassing his father was making him right now. What was even more humiliating was that the front desk staff, neither servile nor arrogant, called the security guards from the entrance, looking ready to escort them out if they made any more noise. Robert immediately grabbed George Miller and Martha Miller by the arm and quickly walked out of the hotel. It was already very late. They could only find a reasonably priced hotel to stay in temporarily and deal with the company tomorrow. Of course, Jessica paid for this too. After 2 consecutive payments, Jessica also fell into deep suspicion. Enemies meet, and eyes turn red with rage. I made sure to go to the company early, but I still ended up running into Robert and his family. In just one night, they had completely lost their arrogance from yesterday. Since getting the divorce certificate yesterday, I had stopped all of Robert's supplementary cards. He still dared to come to the company today. He must not have regained his memory yet. Robert's expression wasn't good when he saw me. "You took my mansion and you still dare show up at the company? Aren't you afraid I'll make things difficult for you?" Before he could say anything else, Chris, my assistant, saw me. "CEO Sterling, I sent the documents over yesterday. They've scheduled a meeting with you for 2 p.m. today." I nodded and ignored Robert, preparing to enter the company with Chris. "Ms. CEO Sterling? We're already downstairs at the company. What's the point of keeping up this act?" I rolled my eyes indelicately. "Robert, you lost your memory, but that doesn't mean everyone else did. Let me kindly remind you. Everything you ate, wore, and where you lived was all paid for with my money. The mansion is mine. The company is also mine. Now get out of my way. Stop bothering me." Like me the day before, Robert's face instantly turned pale. His pupils dilated, and his remaining good leg trembled uncontrollably. "Impossible. This is Sterling Corporation. Your last name is Shin. How could the company be yours? You're lying to me, that's it. You're lying to me. Your company? How shameless can you be? I bet you only got this job because of a man. I knew you signed the divorce agreement so quickly yesterday. You must have hooked up with someone else already." It was then that I realized there were truly people in this world as foolish as pigs. Who says a woman must have the same last name as her father? But his words did anger me. Remembering the humiliation from yesterday, I stepped forward and grabbed Robert by the collar, giving him over a dozen hard slaps. My father's last name was indeed Joe, and my mother's is Shin. This company is now mine, Sarah Sterling's. Any more questions? Did you eat **T this morning? Your mouth stinks. I'm the top executive of this company. Who do I need to hook up with? Even you were living off me. You think you'd be allowed in this company without me?" George Miller and Martha Miller saw Robert being hit. They didn't care about anything else and charged towards me. But this wasn't like yesterday at the mansion. I wasn't helpless and alone. As soon as the security guards at the entrance saw them try to attack, they immediately surrounded us, protecting me and Chris. There were only 4 of them, 2 elderly people, 1 injured man, and 1 stunned woman. Faced with over 10 strong, sturdy security guards, they immediately sobered up. They stopped yelling, stopped hitting. Even if they were foolish, they knew that if I were lying, Chris and the security guards wouldn't be foolish enough to lose their jobs just to cooperate with me. So there was only one truth. Realizing this, George Miller and Martha Miller's emotions became agitated again. They didn't understand. Every time they messaged or called, their son said he made hundreds of thousands a month and was supporting the family. Because Robert often bought them expensive gifts and transferred money to them, they genuinely believed him. They even boasted in their village, telling anyone with problems to come find their son. This time, they had shown off from one end of the village to the other, saying they were going to live a good life with their son. But the reality was that their son was a softie, a kept man living off a woman, and even more foolishly, their family had chased this golden goose away. Robert's face became paler and paler. Pain constantly radiated from his head. In that instant, he remembered everything. What a foolish thing he had done. All these years of effort wasted. No, it's not like this, Sarah. That woman lied to me, she deceived me. Robert's tears streamed down his face. He reached out, trying to push towards me. Sarah, I hit my head back then, I lost my memory, she tricked me. She said she was my mistress, she said she was pregnant with my son, she even said I stopped loving you because you had other men. Sarah, believe me, that day you came home was the first time I ever slept with her. She lied about everything, I didn't know anything back then, you can't blame me. Robert's snot and tears streamed down his face, making me feel even more disgusted. He did lose his memory, that was true. But could losing his memory be an excuse for having relations with another woman in my home and wantonly insulting his wife? Could losing his memory be an excuse for allowing his parents to harm Snowy and harm me? I scoffed, taking 2 steps back. You believed Jessica? Was it not because you already knew each other and were having an affair privately? Don't give me that stupid line about emotional cheating not being real cheating. I never wanted a dirty man, and I certainly don't want a worthless one. George Miller and Martha Miller behind Robert were filled with regret. If they had heard me say these words yesterday, they would have attacked me already. But now they didn't dare say a word, instead looking at me with fawning expressions. Oh, Sarah, men make mistakes, don't they? Especially when Jessica was so shameless, seducing Robert while he had amnesia. That's right, daughter-in-law, just give Robert one more chance. You've been married for so many years, there must be feelings. It was better when they didn't speak. When they did, I remembered Snowy's pathetic state. That mansion belongs to me. You illegally entered and damaged my property, beat my pet, and destroyed my belongings. I've already had my lawyer handle it. I'm sure your wonderful son has the ability to deal with all this. What ability did Robert have now? He had a broken leg, no rich wife, and no job. He was practically penniless. No, you couldn't say he was penniless. He had a new wife, Jessica. Robert quickly turned his head, his eyes bloodshot, wanting to pounce and bite Jessica to death. You ruined everything, it's all your fault. That little B asterisk starred in your belly isn't mine either. You B asterisk TCH. Even with a broken leg, Robert, fueled by intense hatred, lunged towards Jessica. He threw punches hard at her body. You ruined everything and left me with nothing. You even cuckolded me. I'll beat you to death. Hearing this, George Miller and Martha Miller also rushed over and held Jessica down, hitting her. I frowned and immediately called the police station, having the 4 of them escorted away. Jessica wasn't someone to be bullied. I heard that after going to the police station, she adamantly refused to settle and wanted to sue the 3 of them for assault. But Robert held their marriage certificate and used domestic dispute as an excuse for everything. I don't know how the 4 of them settled it, but they eventually got out of the police station. Jessica wanted to snag a rich man but ended up with a kept man. She didn't enjoy any benefits, instead, she ended up spending a lot of her own money. During the fight that day, someone must have put pressure on Robert's leg. Now, Robert was truly disabled. Jessica was naturally very unhappy with this marriage and insisted on getting a divorce. But Robert wasn't stupid. He brought George Miller and Martha Miller to crowd into Jessica's place. He didn't mention divorce, nor did he refuse to divorce. The next day, he showed up downstairs at the company workplace, holding a bouquet of flowers, begging for my forgiveness. From morning until evening, regardless of wind or sun, he persisted for an entire week. Sarah, I truly know I was wrong. Please forgive me, Sarah. Sarah, I'm sincere about you. Just give me one last chance. Okay? I won't give up. I love you, I truly love you. George Miller and Martha Miller took turns accompanying him each day, begging for my forgiveness. The other parent would follow Jessica wherever she went. But I knew very well that Robert didn't love me, he loved my money. In the past, it was for the sake of our relationship, and he was a decent man, which was why I tolerated it. But now, we had neither a marital relationship nor any feelings. Of course, I would never turn back for a man like this again. News of my divorce spread. Many clean-cut, young, and handsome men at the company workplace started showing interest. The coffee I liked, the desserts I liked, the flowers I liked were all brought to me in turns. Moreover, these men were younger, more obedient, and more discerning. When I got into the car with one of the young men, Robert completely lost it. Disregarding his injured leg, he started chasing my car. "Sarah, don't go! Don't leave me! At least give me the 20 million. Sarah, please, I just need the 20 million. Unfortunately, he couldn't catch my car, not even the exhaust fumes. The day I brought Snowy home from the Mal Hospital, George Miller and Martha Miller also received summons from the court. After that, Robert never appeared downstairs at the company workplace again. Knowing I would never come back, Robert completely latched onto Jessica. He had no car, no home, no job, and his parents were locked up. Without Jessica, he might even starve to death. I heard about Robert again in the news. Apparently, the couple had marital problems. Robert just stayed at home, loafing around, hiding Jessica's identification documents. If Jessica didn't come home to cook and serve him, he would either call the police or threaten to burn down the house. Those houses were all Jessica's hard work. She could only swallow her anger. The two of them clashed for a while. Everything exploded when Robert discovered Jessica had another man. This time, he was truly cuckolded. After being discovered, Jessica simply brought the man home. The two of them openly acted as a couple right in front of Robert, making him half dead with rage. But Robert couldn't beat the other man, so he was the one who suffered. One moonless night, Robert directly set a fire, and the three of them perished in the blaze. Looking at the apology message on my phone, I immediately deleted and blocked the sender. I turned and hugged Snowy. From now on, no one would bully me or my little dog. Only happiness belonged to us.